bike in parts all over the garage, and now I'm selling it on Craigslist with something to the effect of no time to complete, wife wants it out of the garage, that kind of thing. And so it's a weekday. This is the second time this week that I've been up at 4:30 in the morning. I've got to work today, but I'm out here doing some cleaning. I've got hours and hours of sanding and brushing and using solvents and brake cleaners ahead of me, and it's not going to do itself. So I get out here and I just keep chipping away at it. And another thought on projects that don't get finished. I feel like a lot of those projects, and I know I'm generalizing here, and I know that things happen to certain men out there in their lives that become a bigger challenge than working on a motorcycle, and they get sidelined. But you know, we get kind of upset with this concept of the wife wants me to get rid of the project in the garage, as if for some reason this is the wife's, some kind of a shortcoming on the wife's part. I guess think about this: if we had the stick-to-itiveness and finish what we started, would our wives or these significant others in our lives be so down on motorcycles? Is it really motorcycles that they're down on, or is it the fact that we're not sticking to it and getting it done? Something to consider. I know that's not going to apply to every situation, but I think any good monk would tell you the key to a happy life is balance. Don't be spending too much time in the garage. If you have a family, don't take family time to work on your motorcycle. Family time is family time, and wife time is wife time, and motorcycle time is motorcycle time. And if you want to have one, find a balance. Another thing I think any good monk would tell you is that all of this detail work is a form of meditation, and it is just as much a part of the spiritual enriching experience of motorcycle ownership as riding them is. There's something about that experience of caring for your machine and preparing it. I'm not a die-hard built, not bought guy. I think that people can buy motorcycles and be passionately in love with them and be having a very spiritually enriching experience. But there's something to building your own motorcycle. There's something to maintaining your own motorcycle. And there is something to designing your own motorcycle that I think does take it to another level. And it's all this alone time with yourself, your own mind, your own thoughts. It's really valuable. In our busy modern lives, we're constantly having to interact with other people, and no doubt that is a very important part of why we're here. Well, it's probably the most important part of why we're here, is what we can do to be of service to others. And the most enriching part of our lives are those spent with others. But it is important
to spend time with yourself, with your own thoughts, and try to calm your mind each day. I start my day with a cup of green tea all by myself. I take that time for myself each day before I spend the rest of it giving myself to my children, to my wife, to my work, to my colleagues at work, and to all of the problems that present themselves in those aspects of my life. Each day I take some time for myself, and this is a wonderful way to talk to your own spirit, talk to your own self internally. And with that, I'm going to shut this camera off and spend some time by myself.
So another thing that I've been so happy I did is take the time to build this simple work table for working on this engine. I have spent so much time now with my toothbrush and my dental pick working around this thing, and the thought dawned on me, what if I was doing all of this with it lying on the ground? Would have been less than desirable. So I think I have $30 in materials into this simple little bench. Here it is, right at a nice height that I can work with, and when I'm done, you know, I don't know, maybe I'll just throw it outside and wait for the next project, or I don't know, bust it up and put it in the fireplace. Who knows? But well worth the $30. Now we're going to look in this oil pan and see what we find. Just comparing lengths on bolts, they all so far seem to be the same length. Noting that these three had the cable ties on them for, what the heck ran down that side? Can't remember. I know I've got a record of it somewhere. Might be a little too soft. It seems to have a good gasket on it. Actually, I think there's some RTV silicone gasket on there, gasket sealer, and so it's glued on there. I'm going to have to carefully pry in some places. Yeah, that is glued on. Another issue I had with this engine is this stud for the oil filter housing. The threads were stripped out on it, and I could barely get the nut to stay tight on it. I was able to seal it, and I drove with it that way, but I actually ordered up the part, and so I'm getting this stud out of here, and we will replace it with a new one. There's no real quick way to get this out. There, I can finally clear the crankcase and spin it around. There.
Okay. Now I've got to remember where I put that part. I've had it for, over a year somewhere. I'll find it. I know I bought it. Found it. Part number, if you're interested. So these studs, I was very rough with it, taking it out, and destroyed the threads on that one. But there's one little spot here in the middle with no threads. That's where you want to grab it with a needle nose to turn it in. Don't be messing up the threads. And I'm not going to be in a hurry with this. I'm going to just keep grabbing it in the correct spot. Take my time. That's it. 3 studs with good threads. Okay, started to get it finally. And I will definitely need a new gasket. There we go. There we are. On this side of the sump, where was that? Up to, yeah, right up in here. I've got all the parts of that piston. I don't know if you can see that chunk of metal. It's amazing I didn't tear that engine up driving it home. I drove it another 10 miles with 3 cylinders. But yeah, massive amounts of chunks of metal down in there. So we'll take a look carefully and see if I see any damage to any of those gears. Right now I don't. And then here in the pan, there's all those chunks of metal. Some I pulled out already. Tough to focus, sorry. But we'll get this stuff cleaned up, and then I'm going to flush from the top down with parts cleaner and see if we get all the pieces of metal. There's some little chunks right there bathing in that oil. And get that stuff out of there. So we'll just try to get this gasket surface cleaned up a little bit. Of course, I don't want to gouge it. And same thing on the cover. Put that O-ring there just so I remember that it's supposed to be there. And then I'm going to be taking this part out to the parts cleaner and clean it up. Well, the Zepp brand stuff works okay. It's not great. This is an all aluminum piece, so no risk of rust here. So I'm in the parts washer with this water-based cleaner, or degreaser I should say. I want to correct that. This stuff doesn't work okay. This is far more work than it needs to be, and far more work than, I mean, I feel like I'm just moving the grease around. I can loosen it up, but then I have to rinse it away. Anyways, if you can get mineral spirits, do that. And I'm going back to kerosene. This is really, it works. It takes way too long. And back to kerosene, and wow, does that work well. I mean, that is just night and day. Where'd my parts cleaner go? Here we go. Night and day. Yeah. Mineral spirits if you can get them. Kerosene if you can't. There might be some other good alternatives I'm missing, but this is working. So that's what I can do with just a little bit of kerosene. Parts cleaner gives the finish a kind of a strange gray dull on the outside. Inside it's shiny. Anyways, going to prime and paint this part. Not in there. So examining the transmission here, of course want to look at the gears themselves and each of the teeth. They look pretty good here. I mean, I am quite impressed actually with the condition of them for the most part. I don't know if you can see down there. But really importantly is the dogs, and that's that little tab. Each of those gears has about 4 of them sticking out laterally from the teeth, and they engage each of the other gears as you run up through your different speeds, and when they get rounded off, that's when you start to get transmissions that will slip out of gear. And for the most part these look really good. I see a tiny chip out of that one straight ahead in the center of the video frame right now. In the top right hand corner you see there's just a little nick off of that, but not too bad, and all the others are looking like they're in fantastic shape. I don't know if you can see over here. Yeah, there's a few more there. So for the most part I'm pretty happy with the condition of this transmission, and it just confirms for me that I really don't need to go further into this engine. I've been able to take some measurements down the distance between the connecting rod and the crankshaft main journals, and I'm within spec there. Certainly there are more specs to be checked, but of the ones I can do from this stage, I'm getting good numbers and I'm seeing good things with the transmission, and so I think it's a reasonable assumption that I don't have greater problems deeper in there. And ultimately I'd like to get this thing done by well, by the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride. And so, you know, let's start getting it back together. I've got a lot of painting to do. I've still got a lot of sanding. I've got to fabricate a seat. My friend Rodney at Allison Sales and Canvas in North Carolina has very kindly volunteered to create a seat for this. He's quite a craftsman and a master with sewing machine and upholstery and canvas and things like this. So I think he's going to do a fantastic job, but I got to go through the time that it'll take to create that, and I got to get the seat pan made first. So there's a lot to do. Need to keep moving forward. The bottom end on this bike is in good shape. Excellent shape? I mean, there's unknown number of miles on it. I wouldn't say that, but I don't have concerns about this transmission. I really don't have concerns about the crankshaft and the connecting rods. I'm getting it cleaned out, getting the chunks of metal that came off of that piston flushed out of there, and I'm going to put it back together. So I think that's going to be a wrap for this video. It's quite a bit of content, and I'll keep moving on. Thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe and to click like if you like this video. Take care.